This is Reverend Dr. Michael Vanderpool with http://universalstar.gs or www.omsh.net, and I'm continuing part 2 of a discussion of the astrology of heartbreak, love, and marriage. And I had give some astrological consultation to one man that I'll never forget this. He is strongly religious, and but yet very open-minded to some extent, but I'd say fairly religiously poisoned. I use that term with a very good intention. And it's a very interesting term as one who studies the Meyer case and the play iron contact notes and material. In any case, he was open-minded enough, and he was well aware of my publication of Storm Warnings for Israel, which was an extremely astrological forecast on the war that happened there, that I had published to eBay and my omsh.net website. So he was curious enough to consult with me and to look into a relationship that he had, and it was a very emotional, fast, deep, profound relationship for him. It picked up rather quickly and was very intense. And so I looked at the combined alignment chart just to give him, an astrological consultation, and my intuitive insight and feeling about that, which sometimes I have that and sometimes I'm not always either wanting to give that or really too much connecting with that, perhaps. In any case, I had seen a bi-level aspect. Bi-level means both in the longitudes and in the latitudes of a Saturn-Chiron a linkage, a clash angle. And so it was twice the strength of heartbreak. And intuitively, I also immediately felt that this was a very bad situation. But here I'm dealing with someone that's telling me how incredibly intense the relationship was and how they had never had this experience, maybe ever before. It was just so incredibly, it was like one of these whirlwind romances, and the sex was just intense and great, and the feelings were strong, and he had even begun to speak of marriage, the possibility of marriage, even wanting to have a child with this woman, with this new love. And this is a man who was no stranger to love and romance. Easily a very attractive man, very clever, very well-to-do, very intelligent, and a socialite of sorts, and I would say easily having more experience than probably most men at his age will ever dream to have in terms of matters of love and romance. And he was absolutely sure that he wanted to have a child and even marriage, both with this woman. And he'd begin to speak to even someone in his family about that. And I warned him very strongly, knowing that he's a bit open-minded, but yet skeptical about astrology. But you see, in this case, I'm using Magi astrology, and I use the various forms of astrology that are very serious. And in this case, I gave him a very strong warning of the great probability and likelihood, in this case, well over 85% likelihood of heartbreak, and a very severe, and could be what could be considered dangerous heartbreak, being bi-level in aspect in the combined alignment chart. And a few months had passed, and I got a phone call. And it was a very touching and very sad phone call. By chance, and in a certain situation, he had, at the other person's request, accessed some information, let's say, in kind of an emergency request. And he learned and discovered firsthand that she was doing things that were questionable on a legal basis, and questionable in terms of, to most people's standards, a moral basis. And in fact, had even published herself in a place advertising services and things that in some locations would be illegal and so on. So basically, he had found that she was a high-priced worker in the industry that most of us would never dream to do, and so on and so forth. I won't get into the exact details, but I think you can read between the lines here, because this is certainly going to be seen in who knows what places. But in any case, that was a situation that was a real, severe, deep, profound, shocking heartbreak for the man that was considering marriage, for the man that was absolutely, strongly, and very seriously religious on the one hand, but yet open-minded and a very cosmopolitan person on the other hand. And it was a painful, profoundly painful experience. And within 4 to 5 months maximum of the consultation that I gave him, and the heads up, the very strong warning that seeing a bilevel aspect of a Saturn-Chiron linkage at a clash angle in the combined alignment chart can bring that type of profound and very real hurtful heartbreak in what also turned out to be a very short-lived but very intense whirlwind romance. So these things can happen to the best of us. And very quickly, before I close this out, there was another man that I gave astrological consultation to, and he had also been consulting with looking at his relationship. It was a new relationship. There were what we call 12 different Saturn captivations or clashes, and in the CAC, the combined alignment chart, a Western and a little bit Vedic-based astrologer professional had talked to him and really warned him and cautioned him about this relationship he was about to enter, and he said within a year and a half, he'd see it. He wasn't seeing it at the time. I also had warned him, looking at the combined alignment chart, that it was not something that he wanted to get caught up in, that would be very easy for him to do so. But it was the type of situation and quality of person that he would certainly learn from that experience and certainly gain from that experience, I thought. But I really cautioned and warned him that it was not something that he would want to get involved with in anything beyond a very, very short-term basis at all. He had certain goals, certain plans in his life, and he was given this heads-up astrological warning or caution from me, and also, as I said before, from another professional astrologer. And he proceeded with the relationship, and as we had both warned him and cautioned him about, he basically had become captivated. His entire game plan, his entire set of goals had changed. The entire course of his life had done basically a 180 at that point. And as the relationship progressed and went into these from this great highs of, newly discovering each other and, great sex and talk of love and having a child and things like that. In fact, they did have a child, and as the other astrologer described it, it was a kind of situation that now he's kind of stuck in the situation where it became very acidic, if you will. It became very antagonistic and completely to the point to where there is no compatibility. And it will be a situation that surely he will deal with for many, many years to come. And he still faces the responsibilities and consequences of a very failed, at least for now, relationship. And as an astrologer, I never saw it being, in terms of a love or romantic or a close type of relationship, any success at all. So in any case, there are responsibilities, there are obligations ongoing because there's a child involved. There was never a marriage in the situation. It is, for all intents and purposes, a very failed relationship at this time with no real possibilities or probabilities of it continuing on. So in essence, some people really look at astrology as entertainment, and certainly I have put the disclaimer on my videos and on my sites about that. On the other hand, in just these two examples, and there's many more, I've seen, and so have so many thousands of others throughout the ages, and especially in these modern times with this great modern research that we have to work with in terms of astrology and the astrology of heartbreak, love, and marriage. These things can be avoided in some cases and some of the time. And where they cannot be avoided, we can at least, again, minimize the impacts of these situations, and at least have a conscious awareness of the risks that we are getting involved with, or that we might already be involved with in some relationships that we might already have. So in any case, those are some very true and realistic points that had these persons who had these astrological consults, had they listened, had they had taken it much more seriously, because these particular things are in part based on some very real modern research, 20 years in length, 100,000 people studied and involved, confirmed by public records and so on and so forth, that brought about some very real statistical data, some very real scientific data. Had they had listened, they really would have maybe not only saved an incredible element of heartbreak for themselves and for the partners that they were involved with at the time, but also, in some cases, entire lives, for the rest of their life, for remaining years, will have profoundly been affected by these failed, at least in one case, failed relationship where involved a child. So in any case, that's concluding this short video clip and short examples on discussing further the astrology of heartbreak, love, and marriage, and in this case with a little deeper focus on the heads up about heartbreak linkages in combined alignment charts. I'm Reverend Dr. Michael Vanderpool, and if you're watching me on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you happen to see me here on Facebook, you can find me at Tigr, that's Tigr 7170, username on YouTube, or Universal Star GS YouTube username channel.